Truth Seeker and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the Truth Seeker podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark's at it!
Streaming live at truthseeker.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark's at it stuff!
And now, your host, Truth Seeker.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Truth Seeker. This is the Truth Seeker podcast. And I'm excited to be here with you guys again. This is the second show for today. Got a lot of interesting conversations lined up for you guys, man. Some really cool people that have reached out to me. Some people I've reached out to them. We're closing in on 100 episodes, man. I'm almost at my 100th episode. And I've definitely surpassed 100 episodes already over the years. But since I've started kind of categorizing them and putting numbers to them, and some of the older ones that I've kind of brought back and edited and stuff like that to release that I thought that were good. So with those combined, we're kind of getting at 100. So I think we're at like 96 or 97 today. I do have somebody really cool planned for episode 100, but to really focus on that, I like to focus on each and every episode. I think that each and every episode is beautiful. I learned something from every conversation, and I get so many comments and stuff from you guys about each and every one, even the ones you think that maybe didn't go well, or someone, or it was somebody who was a smaller name or nobody knows about this person. Even those episodes, people reach out to me, so it's really cool. Closing in on 100 episodes of the Truth Seeker podcast. Couldn't do it without your help. So I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's supporting my work at patreon.com. There you can get access to extra podcast interviews, all kinds of cool stuff. You get access to my entire discography. I do music. I'm a rapper. It's like 10 plus albums, and all the new music that I'm working on. Getting ready to release a new album entitled Seer. That music is already up on Patreon. As soon as I'm done with the song, I upload it there. So people are always inboxing me, asking me, when am I working on new music and when is it coming out? And I have to point you to Patreon. Like, that's the way to support independent artists and people who are creating independent media. So if you like this podcast, if you like my music and you want to support any level of giving, you can head on over there, and anywhere from $1, $5, $10, whatever you're able to do, man, it would mean so much. So this podcast is free to consume, but it's not free to create. So patreon.com/truthseeker. You also get access to the School of the Mystics. Yes, that's something that we do every Thursday night. That's our community. This is something that we've kind of been starting it out where we're just kind of meeting each other, where the podcast is like turning into a community where people are just listening to this show religiously. Like, this is their church, this is their mosque, this is their place of fellowship. So you get to link in with like-minded people, and I'm there in the midst in the chat and leading that whole thing, and we've been communing with that, and it's so cool to be able to meet you guys. But also what we just started this last week is a course. We started our first course, and this is an 8-week program which we're doing. It's about tuning in to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit speaking in your life, speaking to you and through you. speaking about other people, being able to pick up on those intuitions and speaking with prophetic utterances and with boldness to know the energies that are coming through. And this is something that we started this last Thursday, the first week, and it was phenomenal. I was kind of nervous about it, wondering if we could all kind of tap in from everybody's joining from different places all over the world, and we're tuning in together and still linked into one another's spirit, and it went seamlessly. It was perfect. So I'm definitely looking forward to continuing that journey with you. If you missed that, if you weren't able to catch the first week that we've done already, that's available for patrons as well. I'm archiving all that stuff now. It's available there. So Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central, we're doing the School of the Mystics. Make sure you join us there. You get access by going to truthseeker.com, click on School of the Mystics, or go to patreon.com/truthseeker. With that being said, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank the following people. These are some of the new patrons that we have. Welcome to the fold. Welcome to the family. Someone today, Raj, R-A-J, Raj Wright, Valerie Maroquin, Monica, Carlos Gardenes, and Dongus Kavaskas. This is so cool because people are joining from all over the world. I can't even pronounce your names half the time. Thank you guys for linking in with me, man. It's really a blessing that you guys believe in my work and what I'm bringing to the table. Also, with that being said, I'm going to be releasing a new music video right after the end of this episode. The song is entitled "The Invisible Creatures of the Five Elements," featuring Illuminati Congo and commentary by Manly P. Hall. That's going to be going live as soon as we get done with this tonight. And I want to kind of touch on some of that stuff tonight in this conversation, if applicable. I think it is. So my guest tonight joins me. This is Nico, Scarlet Moon. What's up, brethren? Welcome to the show.
It's nice to finally be here, actually. I've been kind of waiting for this with you. I mean, you and I have been aware of each other for a while. You know, it's been a couple of years. You know, I've been kind of orbiting each other. I don't think a lot of people know that, though.
Yeah, we've been trying to make this happen for a while. And we've talked over the phone. We've talked over Facebook. We've gotten into these weird Facebook. I don't think me and you have got into Facebook debates, but you were mentioning even some of the people who are like following your work and what you're doing. Some of them could be like really dogmatic, and definitely some people that I'm linked in with dealing with Christianity and still kind of like my way or the highway type mentality. They can be dogmatic as well. So those kind of debates and jabs and things like that have taken place on my page and then followed over on your page and everybody watching, even people who don't comment. I don't like that stuff, man. I really don't. But I've noticed that some of my friends have tried to take jabs at you about your beliefs and your stances and stuff, and I ended up deleting a lot of those comments and like, let me reach out to you. That's when I hit you up in Messenger. I was like, look, man, we need to build, we need to restore whatever we have here. And we talked on the phone for probably about an hour and a half one night and kind of worked through some things, man. And ever since then, I was looking forward to having you on the show. You're finally here. Not gonna lie, like since that time, I didn't know if you were getting ready for a debate, a religious debate on your standpoints, because I come from a Christian background or what. But be honest, did you think that it was, I kind of talked to you beforehand, but did you think that it was gonna be somewhat of a debate or me attacking your stance or something like that?
No,
not at all.
No, I honestly, no, when it comes to you as an individual, and you know, one of the things that I would say is that I personally, you know, getting to know you, I'm kind of like, all right, I wouldn't say you would be on the attack. There is something, you know, and I don't even think there's a whole lot of people on, you know, I mean, did I come into this thinking, oh, what are my followers going to think? Are they going to think I'm like a traitor to the cause, or I'm doing something wrong, or are they going to get set off by X, Y, and Z, or whatever? It occurred to me, but then I was like, I don't give a damn. And then there's this other part of me that's kind of like, well, this does open the broader discussion, you know, and I think that I bring it up from time to time, just in like posts and even on my own videos, you know. It's not faith and it's not a practice anymore if it's so high maintenance that you need everyone to agree with you and affirm and validate everything you do constantly. Yeah. And whether you want to call it that recently awakened mentality or born again mentality or something where a person is just kind of like they finally come out of their bubble, or they've come out of a life that was definitely low vibe. There's that weird sort of very delicate phase, I think, kind of like when a butterfly comes out of a chrysalis, right? It's sort of like it's still drying off its wings. It can't do what it takes. It can't fly yet. And it's going to take that, that hour, which is a long time for a butterfly. But I think that if we allow the pressure to only cater to that mentality, we're doing ourselves a disservice. And we're doing the community a disservice. So no, I'm not. I wasn't thinking of being here in that sense. I definitely don't think of you doing that. I think that on some level, you and I have both, however, had instances. I definitely recall a couple of years doing Scarlet Moon. This is coming up on my 5th year anniversary of doing this. And one of the things that I kind of find is that sometimes you get kind of pigeonholed into being like, okay, everyone online, every mystic, everyone who's out there either preaching or teaching or doing mysticism or practicing magic or anything like that. It's all about that whole, like, you have to somehow be the teacher, the counselor, and the nurse all at the same time. And I'm not a nurse. I'm not even good at being a sponsor. I'm one of those people, like, I'm here to teach, and I'm like a field guide. You got to be out in the field. You got to be working. You got to be practicing. Tell me about something you did. Tell me about something that happened. Tell me about what crazy stuff's going on. We're going to work it out. I'm not really there to be like, I'm not going to sit over your shoulder while you're still reading books, and not doing nothing. So, it all depends on, I think it has to do with where society is shifting now. I think that there's a big pull for more action. It's the difference between being awake and getting out of bed. Okay. There are a lot of people out there who are awake, but they're still in bed. They're in bed looking on Twitter, looking on Facebook, doing all the research, sitting with a pile of books, and that's great. But that's not going to do us a whole lot of good if we're awake and still in bed. Yep. So
just steadily learning and feeding.
Yeah.
And
you can get addicted to that stuff.
Oh man. But there's a time and place for that. And I think, like you said, early on, I don't do much studying and researching anymore. You know what I'm saying? I like to kind of get into new material, but for the most part, I try to say that my time now is trying to apply the stuff that I've already learned. Like, I've already learned some really deep, mystical, esoteric stuff, or even practical stuff that I can apply to my life. And I'm trying to learn how to do it and be able to teach others to do the same, versus trying to get to the bottom and figure out every secret or every mystery. Like, the stuff I've already learned is just so mind-blowing that I'm having trouble making it fit and work for today. So that's kind of where the focus is for me now. And I think a lot of us kind of get there eventually as well. But the really cool thing is that we come from two different schools of thought, two different, I don't know if you want to call it religious. I come definitely from a religious background. I don't call myself too religious anymore. And you come from more of a pagan background. And the funny thing is like the same plight that you're talking about with the followers or your audience or the people who follow your work. You have this fear of, what if I go here? What are they going to say about me? And you kind of have to move past that. The same thing for me. I have the same things as well. I go on different shows with other belief systems, and the lady I had on earlier, she was in Islam at one point, and I was trying to tell her I was asking her for some beautiful verses from the Quran. I'm like, I don't know the Quran. I don't know if they're in there, but share them with me if they are, like in a real seeker friendly way, like wanting to know. She wasn't well versed to do that, but that's her background and that's her past. And for us to be able to come together and find common ground and build upon that, I think that's where the power lies, man. I think people find breakthrough in their life. I'm dealing with a lot of people coming out of the church. They're into a lot of the things that you talk about. They're into astrology. They're into spirits. Even just like the mystical breakdown that you did the other day on the video regarding the head ties and the head wraps and the spirituality behind that. What draws me to that kind of stuff is there's a little bit of that stuff in the Bible. There's little bitty crumbs and stuff. but there's not like this really in-depth belief. Now, if you get into messianic breakdowns or some of the mysticism, you find more there, and it gets into more of the stuff that you're tying into. That's why I like to kind of get people like you on the show that you approach. I think we're talking about the same thing. You just you're coming at it from a different standpoint, and I love it. It's beautiful to me. It's not a threat, and I shouldn't be a threat to anything you're bringing to the table as well. If you have the truth, right? If what you have is really working for you and it's changing lives and helping people, I don't think we should be scared of it at all.
Well, I don't think so either. You know, one of the things that, definitely, I think a lot of us gotta look into here is that at the end of the day, truth is beyond, what we decide as 3D incarnate, not fully here. Because the way I describe it is we're in like a game right now, right? We're like playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like you're just Mario. The real you is the person playing Mario, right?
Yeah. So
that's how I would look at it. Now, the truth is out there where the player is, not where the character is. And to tap into that, you kind of realize, okay, well, there is such a thing as syncretism. There is such a thing as like, okay, these deities, these beings, these spirits, this truth is going to come to different places in different ways. It's just got to. It's only our pride that makes us think that what I'm so good at is what's so right for you. Because we're all learning how we tap in. We're all learning how we work. And when I say learning how we work, it's not, I'm not learning how you work. I'm going to learn how you work by being your friend. I'm not going to learn how you work by studying me. That doesn't make any sense. But by learning how I work, I can be a more effective, practitioner, an effective witch, an effective magician. And that's how I like to do it. So I'm learning more about me while doing that. And I'm tapping into my portion of truth. You're doing the same thing. And eventually we are going to connect. Eventually we're going to, those roots are all going to meet at the heart of the tree. And that's where we're basically going. And I think that if we allow ourselves to get into a situation where the pride in, I guess you could say, again, knowing how much I work or knowing what works for me means it has to work for you. Again, pride cometh before the fall. A lot of people will end up, finding out that no, they don't have the best way for everybody. They don't have it, and they kind of wonder, oh, why didn't it work for me? Why couldn't I do this? Why couldn't I do that? Well, the reason you couldn't do it is because you didn't bother to learn the other person's language. You didn't bother to connect. You were so busy trying to connect in only one way. You didn't bother to connect here. You didn't bother to connect from the heart. You need to connect from the heart. If you're just going to be thinking about, oh, well, I want to, I'm going to focus on this over here, and it's going to be this mystical path, and it's like this hermetic science thing from Blizz Blaz and Him Ham from Kabbalistic blah, thousands of years ago. Or you're going to go over here and say, no, it's got to come straight out of this church and only this denomination and only this interpretation. It's not going to work. You're just only going to have so much. It's kind of like having a diet and all you're eating is corn.
Yeah.
It's not, you got to at least give credit to the other foods, in the food chain. If you're not going to eat it, that's fine. That's up to you.
Yep.
That's up to you. If all you want is corn, that's cool. But don't tell me that I can't eat other things or that, that's how I would put it.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think it's a little bit of all of it, and it's about exploring that. And that's one thing that I've kind of branded on this show, that it's okay to explore. That you should never tell anybody not to look into something if their heart's desire is for it. We have people so many times, don't get into that, don't look into this, don't have that conversation, stay away from him. You know what I'm saying? All of this type of stuff for years, man. I've heard that. But yeah, so now we're connected. We're doing this. I appreciate your platform. I love what you do. For my audience who may be new to, what you're bringing to the table, we've titled this show, as of now, Astrology and Spirits, right? I definitely want to get into both of those topics, but talk a little bit about your YouTube page and what you bring to the table with your page on YouTube and some of the topics that you dive into on a weekly basis there.
Okay. Well, I've got two active pages. There's Scarlet Moon, which is the one I think I'm logged into on this one. I think, because I have them open on like a million different tabs and windows on my computer right now. I think I'm logged into that one. So there's Scarlet Moon. That's just plain old Scarlet Moon. That's it, nothing more. And that's my tarot astrology page. And I do horoscopes on there. I do weekly horoscopes on there. I will sometimes come out with lectures and talks about big astrological transits that are going to be with us, and it's like, I won't do it unless it's going to be with us for at least a few months or a year or two. So people kind of know, okay, this is what the weather's looking like right now. And then I've also got a Patreon page, the Integrative Mysticism Patreon page. And so I've got bi-weekly horoscopes on there, astrology and tarot, which kind of cover a different layer, 2 weeks at a time, to go with the weeklies that are free on Scarlet Moon. And so that's definitely all its own thing, and it's such and at some point I had to make another channel for my other mystical talks, because it was like, you can't put up a video on, say, like cleansing your energy or head wrapping or manifestation, and then 3 days later, like, bam, 12 horoscopes are just going to push it down to the bottom of the subscription.
Yep.
So I made another channel back in 2015 called Scarlet Moon Magic. There you go. And basically that's a bit more of a personal, my personal spiritual experiences, personal spiritual takes. I do talks on all kinds of things, like, this is basically what you want to consider if you are trying to go about this path. I've got a playlist for starting solitary for people who do want to start as witches and they want to start the solitary path, because I walk a solitary path. I am not really a part of any like formal groups or orders or covens or anything like that. I do have a group of friends, and we meet less regularly than we really should, and some people call us a coven, but really it's just a clique that gets together and like chain smokes and does magic every once in a while. I mean, it was just a really chill family kind of situation.
Yeah, ain't nothing. Hey, that's the most powerful one sometimes.
Yeah,
it's the real deal, man.
It's not like we have
I've got those people too. I don't chain smoke, but they do, and you know what I'm saying. So yeah,
it's like we don't have like orders and reads and stuff. We don't have any doctrines, and then I also have a thing for just general spiritual practice. Maybe you're not interested in being a witch, but you're interested in kind of just learning, I guess you could say, the fundamentals of certain types of mysticism. We talk about things like manifestation, energy healing, tapping into your intuitive gifts and things like that. Just because you don't want to walk the path of a witch doesn't necessarily mean that you can't use these tools. So there you go. And then there's like, it's a much more, I would say that it just kind of goes deeper into those things. Kind of gets into more of, again, like we talked about the head wraps, more of the spiritual talk of spiritual practice versus spiritual science, which I think kind of covers more of the astrology and things like that as well. I mean, they mix, but I just had to divide at some point,
Yeah, definitely. I kind of messed my channel up a long time ago before it got deleted, but I did that. I got into some other things. Somebody mentioned my Celebi. Somebody in the chat. I have a Celebi Pokemon behind me. Somebody mentioned that in the chat, and I started getting into gaming and doing online gaming and streaming and stuff, and I try to do that from my Truth Seeker page. So you get one interview with Jordan Maxwell about the occult and mysticism, and the next video is how to catch a Celebi.
Nice.
and so yeah, mixing those two together at that time didn't really work, and I lost a huge amount of subscribers, and people they didn't get it at all. I got a lot of hate mail, all kinds of crazy stuff by doing that. So yeah, it's definitely, if you're trying to if you're a jack of many trades, to kind of have everything separated or whatever, so you don't kind of mix it all together and all that kind of stuff.
I kind of did it more for like I kind of did it more for like visibility, and I'm about to go down that geek road too myself.
Start a different page.
I'm thinking about doing it as on Scarlet Moon Magic, because it's also kind of like a personal journal. It's a personal vlog.
That's what I was telling people, and they didn't want to hear it. I was like, look, this is the Truth Seeker page. This isn't isn't Jordan Maxwell's page. This is Truth Seeker.
If it's exactly. If it's your business, that's one thing. And, the reason I call it Scarlet Moon Magic, because everyone always asks me. They always ask me, it's like, Nico, what's your favorite thing to do? Do you like astrology better? Do you like tarot better? I'm like, I like magic better. Magic's my favorite. I love all three, but magic's my favorite. So I thought Scarlet Moon Magic, okay, it's Nico's favorite. It's Nico's thing. That's going to be his personal page. Whatever happens here is going to happen over here. At some point in time, there's probably just going to be a bunch of videos of cats making, getting for the views. But we'll see.
Playing the keyboard and stuff.
Yeah, cats playing keyboard, cats running around shaking laser pens. Whatever happens. So.
That's awesome, man. It's what though, the crazy thing for that, it was a huge revelation for me though. Even though maybe like that, the way I was mixing it on that channel, like you said, if it's a business, if it's something that's consistent, you're doing podcasts and then you're doing Pokemon videos. That was kind of a crazy contrast, but the thing about that I had to learn was to be okay with who I was, and I didn't have to hide it. I didn't have to hide that I played Pokemon with my family, or that I'm a gamer and I'm very competitive and I love technology and all of this type of stuff. Like versus coming from, I'm just a spiritual teacher, I'm just a spiritual guru who meditates all day and does all that stuff. Yeah, I do that, but not all day. I don't like that. That would be a lie. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what's kind of funny is that when they mentioned that Pokemon, I don't know Pokemon, I don't know Pokemon very well, but I do know some anime, and I thought they were talking about the color scheme on this, and this is actually a gift I got from my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
He actually drew it for me, and I thought they were referencing my Sashomaru.
Wow.
Drawing. Well, it's not mine. I didn't draw it. She drew it for me, and I was like, "Holy crap! How did they see it that far away?" I'm like, "And how do they know anime so damn well?" All right, well, that's kind of cool. But no, I mean, you got to own it. You got to own it. And one of the things that I've kind of noticed, is that the more open you are about, you can weave it in. You can weave it in. That's not a big deal at all. It's just a matter of, don't let it dominate. There are people there for certain things, and I think that when it comes to spiritual practice and spiritual anything, people are going to go with either what they resonate with, or at least what they choose to let themselves like. And so I like to give people that choice. I don't want to get up on my horoscopes and, just kind of go, I've seen a lot of people who do horoscopes out there. And I don't know how people retain information of like, here's a weekly horoscope and it goes on for an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, a good chunk of that week is gone, and you're going to come back and watch this for an hour, like every day. I didn't want to be that person. And then it also got me thinking about, all right, well, if you're not going to do that, you also might want to keep in mind that a lot of people are just going to pick and choose what they want to have. So you help people choose by telling people exactly what you're putting where. It's kind of like Starbucks, right? They got like 80,000 different flavors somewhere behind the counter, right? But what do you look when you see on the menu? Yeah. Caramel, mocha, vanilla. You just got to help people kind of see what they're, because if you're coming at this new, or you're just going on the dang, if you're going on the, how do I phrase it? If you're just kind of going online, I mean, it's insane. I mean, if you're brand new to this,
yeah,
I started practicing in 97, 98.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming up on, I had my 20-year anniversary of, practicing as a witch this last autumn, August, September. So I was already, I kind of matured. I was of that last group to come into, spiritual practice and mysticism without the internet, being mainstream. And, I was 13. So it's different, 12, 13. So it's a bit different now. And I think that, for me back then, it was very easy for me to kind of be like, okay, this is what I'm focusing on. I got choices. I can explore if I want, but I'm going to be able to actually have that kind of controlled environment. You come online nowadays and it's like, you're just bombarded with a whole bunch of crap. You're feeling crazy. You may accidentally go with somebody who's crazy. You don't know who's there to trust.
Oh man. Cult leaders galore, man.
Well, and it's not just cult leaders. Sometimes it's the blind leading the blind. Sometimes
it turns into a cult leader. They don't mean to be, right. But yeah, you're following them and their dogmas and their belief. Next thing you know, you're arguing with people on Facebook about your dogma that you learned from Truth Seeker or somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Or my least favorite. It's kind of like you've got these low functioning, kind of like very mentally disturbed people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
masquerading as these. I'm just too good to be here, and you get people who just eat out of the palm of their hand.
Yeah,
they're masquerading as like, well, I'm just beyond your perception. We're not on the same damn frequency.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, dude, you're batshit crazy. Yeah. And you've got somebody who probably is looking for some healing or some help, and all you're doing is spinning them round and round and round, and all of a sudden, you're taking tinfoil hat to a new level. So I think that what we need to do in our community, to help people in this sense, is to kind of get away from, okay, well, what is the expectation? What is safe, right? What is safe? Now, I've never hid the fact that I was a witch or gay or anything like that from any of my followers. So nobody's ever really shocked by anything I do. But I think that for a lot of new people, you have this sort of expectation of, okay, what is safe? And I call it the secret effect. Okay, everyone get ready to get offended here. I don't know who I'm talking to. Your people in mind. What am I about to say? What am I about to say? All right, I call it the secret effect, as in I blame the secret, like the book and the film that got published. Here we go. Because that made something safe. It made, it gave you a lot of watered down information. It's good information to start with, but it's not the place to stop. And that's what happened. It was safe to start and stop there with this law of attraction, the secret. And, that was a big thing. And when you kind of look at the era, it makes sense. It was almost like, the way I would describe it, it'd be like if you took a hermetic scientist and turned it into a prosperity gospel.
Exactly.
It was like a mix of both of it. And you had this situation where, and again, I kind of feel like 2007 to probably just about 2 years ago was kind of like the 1980s. So everything was kind of getting yuppified, and everything was getting all yuppie again. And I kind of feel like that's what happened.
Marianne Williamson.
Yeah. It's, so you kind of have this situation where people are looking for what is safe, but also what is market acceptable.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of collaborations with people who were, mystics, who were big into meditation, big into Buddhism, big into witchcraft, big into the New Age movement. And they were always so focused on how do we play it safe by the market to make our coin.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I think that maybe the problem is when you follow a trend, you've already given yourself an expiration date. You've already given yourself a shorter expiration date than it's the opposite of food. When it comes to this kind of thing, the more organic it is, the longer it lasts.
Yeah.
The opposite. You don't want to jam it with preservatives. Like, okay, well, what's okay to say? What's okay to say? Let's make sure I saturate this website with terms like vibration and quantum at least.
And don't say God.
And don't say
don't say
God.
universe or essence or
prayer. No, we're gonna work with angels, but we're not going to use the God word.
Yeah.
And we're going to
ascended masters, but not Jesus, even though he is an ascended.
Yeah, ascended masters, but not Jesus. Or my favorite, people who don't like to use when I say spell, I like to say spell. I cast spells. That's what I do. I'm a witch. That's what you do. And there's people like, well, I don't do spells. I'm like, well, what do I do? So I'm like, well, what do you do? And it's like, well, in a sacred space, I actually, mindfully and with intention arrange certain items and energies to create a certain type of frequency in order to manifest a change in the world I want to see. And I said, I said spell, and we saved a hell of a lot of time, because that's exactly what that is. Yeah. So it's just about making sure we don't.
Yeah, it's the stepping on toes or what doesn't jive well for people. Like I've been, I and it's been a weird place over the years, adjusting, finding out who you are, finding your voice. Like we always have a piece or a portion of it, and it just kind of evolves and comes together, and then we're comfortable in our skin and comfortable with our likes and dislikes and downfalls and shortcomings and all that stuff. But I have an eclectic following or even Facebook page or whatever over the years where I could post something and it, I have the Christians, I have the New Agers, I have the witches, I have the occult people, then I have the atheists, then I have the Hindus. Like all of these people, and whatever you post or whatever you share is going to piss one of them off. Like one portion of those people are going to love it, but the other half, they're not going to get anything from it. And they're they're going to be combative and things like that. We have to deal with that. That was a weird place of like, and it's still like that. Like those thoughts still kind of go through my mind sometimes, but you can't let it influence the way that, let me not say God, let me not say Jesus. Even in the Christian circles, they'll be where they'll say Yeshua or use different names to not say that word because it turns people off or whatever the case is. I go on New Age shows. I say God. I talk about Jesus or just my story. And I hear the hosts huff and puff under their breath and snicker and stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm your guest. And you're like laughing at me under your breath and stuff and making faces while
which is complete BS, honestly, which is complete BS.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of one of those things we have to be able to auto translate. If for some reason it just doesn't work for you. Now, for me, I can hear you say Jesus, and I do believe in Jesus. I don't believe that Jesus and I are of the same. I would say that Jesus and I are probably we'd be really cool with each other, but I also think that we're also very accepting of like, okay, we probably were in different schools in different parts of the academy, so to speak. And I think that's okay. It's okay to be different. There is no all encompassing, and anyone who says things like, oh, I don't want you to bring this into it. Check your issues at the door if you're really going to take this seriously. No, I'm serious. You cannot.
We talked about this before we went live, man. 100%.
Yeah, you can't cross-contaminate your intentions.
Yeah.
You cannot. Are you here because you're on a spiritual journey and you're trying to find out the truth about who you really are and become a more effective co-creator and work in the universe and tap into your higher spiritual source? Or is this just like about a twin flame, a lottery ticket, and your healing journey? Like, those can all be fringe benefits if that's a thing for you, but you can't cross-contaminate your intentions that way. You can't say you're doing one thing when really you just want that lottery ticket, you want to make a bunch of money. Or you can't say you're all about that when you're really just looking for a relationship, or you're looking for, or you're just angry and you ended up here. That's something to pay attention to.
Coming into this, man, I think I have a one-up because I do approach it from I have the religious lingo. I can do it from whichever belief system you want. I have what kind of works for me, or what did work for me, or whatever. That's what I'm familiar with. That's what I've studied the most. I think I have a one-up because I understand the all. And it's not just me. It's the people who understand. Like you said, you say Jesus, but you mean this. Like, if we talk about Jesus, like, okay, so I went on somebody's show. I went on Kelly and the Raw. I used to go in there all the time. She, had a huge following at one point and was really big. And
yeah,
she let me come on the show all the time, and she talked to me about Jesus and stuff. And she asked me this question, and I think she was looking for a dogmatic answer because we were like, not a dogmatic answer, but she was looking for a different answer than I gave her. She gave me a scenario of where like her Baptist friends would come to her and say, Jesus is the way. Jesus is the only way to God. True Seeker, what would you say about that? And she knows I'm a Christian. She's almost tried to set me up, but right. I think she just wanted me to laugh at it because it was a really fun interview. And I told her, I said, I would agree with them. I would agree that Jesus is the only way. But I would say Jesus is the only way because Jesus just represents love. Like, love is the answer. Like, love is the key. Not that you have that name or that philosophy or belief system, or you follow the teachings of, the Hebrewic teachings of Jesus or whatever. That's not it. It's about understanding the essence of the all. And this person was love. And love is what fuels. If love is not what's fueling you, like you said, check your intentions at the door. I believe that love is everything. Is our spiritual motive. It's our fuel. It's what fuels our faith. It's love, man. And it's so beautiful. And once you understand that, the terms, the ideas, I think you can see past it. Maybe it takes a lot of studying. Maybe it takes a true spiritual awakening. I don't know. I know what's led me to this point, and I know people who are in the same essence that I'm in. And you don't have to be right. You just bringing what's working for you to the table, and you're fine with that. You know what I'm saying? There's a beauty in that when we come together, bro. I enjoy it.
I agree. And you know what? I think that when people say, is Jesus the only way to love? I would say yes, too. I would have to explain myself.
Yeah, just like me.
I would have to explain myself. And the reason why would I say Jesus is the only way to God? Well, I guess I'd have to caveat that and be like, okay, look at this for a minute. Jesus was open to God. Jesus was not only completely open and trusting to God, but in all accounts, he basically allowed himself to be led, and in a sense, in an incarnation of that fragmentation, right? So to me, and this is where I think I have some issues with a lot of, I say quote unquote Christians, because if Jesus is the only way to God, it's because Jesus was doing that, not because Jesus was Jesus. Okay? So if you're going to be like Jesus, you're going to be open and allow yourself to inhabit and embody all of that. And you're going to work on emulating Jesus,
exactly.
not following Jesus. this whole shepherd sheep crap, that is man-made. And a lot of people are coming and looking for a new shepherd when they come into this community. And the first thing you got to do is be like, no, you don't need a damn shepherd. I mean, that's a big deal. And I think that, one of the things that a lot of people need to understand is that when, if I say, is Jesus the only way to God? Sure. Just like I would say that Shiva's the only way to God. Or there's a lot of other people, because why? Because deep down at the essence and at the core, they all have the same way. They are open to being that embodiment. Yeah. Righteousness is actually a lower tier vibration of love. It's not the highest vibration. So whenever we go into righteousness, whether we are going in to purify something or to bring healing or to protect or to dispel or rebuke evil or things like that, we're still coming down from love. And that's something that some people can do with fluidity and some people can't. Some people come down to righteousness, they get stuck. Or it's a downward spiral and they keep going further down. Some people, again, and you could say like Jesus, or, there are plenty of angels out there where it's you come down to righteousness, but you can go right back up to love. And that is, again, that's an access you have by transcending these different dimensions of consciousness. The more dimensions of consciousness you transcend, you have access to everything beneath and more above. But some people let it come into, some people go into sort of a downward spiral. So is Jesus the only way to God? Yes, but it's not the name. It's what Jesus is the only way to God to me. What God is, that essence, to me, is source. Is that, to me, I don't look at God as a consciousness. When I equate God to what a lot of people, to me, God is just Holy Spirit, and I take the rest out, if that makes sense. You could say Holy Spirit, you could say source consciousness, you can say just source in general. So that's how I mentally auto-translate when people are talking to me, and this is how we can jive like this.
That's what you have to do, man.
Yeah.
You have to do. Yeah, you have to do it. You have to become all things to all people, I think. Or you're not going to get anywhere, man. I've been there for years. Like, I've been in that circle. I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you have, if you're kind of relating back to those early years of being awakened and you had the key. It's like whenever you meet a vegan who just became vegan, the way is because they tell everybody. Everybody knows that they're a vegan. Or the same thing with a Christian. You run around shouting almost, from the rooftops or whatever the case is,
My story's
you're just excited about it,
Well, my story's a bit different, though. It's not the same. I grew up in a vastly atheist house. So it's not that there was an oppressive religion. It's that there wasn't really a lot of room for that philosophical spiritual discourse. Little did I know that actually there was, and that my dad actually is very, very spiritual, and that my mom is very, very spiritual. But for whatever reason, they just happened to be a phase in the 80s and 90s where they just didn't want that to be like a part of their daily life. Yeah. Now it is, and it's all good, and it was before, and it was all good. So they must have just been in a spot. But my dad, was always very much just very atheist the whole time. My biological mother was actually a fairly prominent medium here in Seattle and in Portland back in the 80s, back before like ghost hunters and things like that. And so it's there, it's in me. And there's always been, we've always been open about things like the paranormal. The witch thing, that's always been a little bit different in my family. So I didn't have to really like wake up and shout from the rooftops or anything like that, because I never really felt oppressed. To me, it was kind of like joining Taekwondo, or joining a martial art. It was kind of like, it's something I do, it's something I think is really cool. And it's something that that I'm getting a lot out of. But I think it takes all kinds, it goes into all kinds of mentalities. There are plenty of people out there who are better at being what they are. I think there's such a demand for, I don't want to call it fellowship because that's not fair to say. communion is not the same. It's not fair to say, but I think there is such a demand for, I guess you could say, just sort of intermingling. You know, and I mean, it's one thing to want support. It's one thing to want to have that. And I did. I had some people I practiced magic with. Even back then, I had a friend who introduced me to it. But that was already after I had already been told I had ESP. Or when I was 3 years old, my older brother, you know, said that, you know, like it was like a week before Thanksgiving when he was 3 years old, Nico got out of his bed and started talking like an adult at the top of the stairs, asking where he was and, you know, and what year it was, you know, like past life regression kind of moments. So these things happen.
Where am I? Why am I trapped in this little kid's body?
Yeah, what the you know, just basically. So so I think that again, it can go into this space of you've got to make sure that you know what your intention is if you're serious about going down this path. I think it was easier for me because it was kind of like, again, I was already kind of primed for it. I wasn't really pushed to think. I mean, every once in a while I'll encounter a family member who's an atheist and, you know, they're kind of like, I thought you were smarter than that, you know, but that's not the same thing as like, oh, they're like hardcore dogmatic or they're, you know, that's not the same
It just works for you and you do it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, so, I mean, that's kind of what the next question was going to be was what kind of got you into it like early on? Like what built your intrigue? It seems like we came up around the same time, so I think we were maybe influenced by some of the same movies, horror movies, magical movies and stuff like supernatural movies and things like that. Did any of that stuff have a play in your childhood or watching the X-Men and wanting it to be real, but then being told that it's not and then finding out, no, it kind of is real, you know? Like what was some of the, like, you know what I'm saying, the intrigue to kind of get into the craft and seek out some of those, that spiritual path?
The paranormal experiences themselves were the intrigue, like knowing it's there, you know, and feeling it's there.
So you said that happened to you at 3. Yes. Did you remember it? Anything?
No, I don't remember it. But I can tell you right now, I've had like prophetic dreams. Like I knew when a move was coming. Yeah. Like I would see the new neighborhood. Yeah. All kinds of things like that. So I've already, you know, it's kind of. That's how I describe it.
What about the dark side, even as a kid, though? Because I've had like, you know, night terrors and waking up with beings laying on top of me and crazy things like that. I mean, we come around the same age. Do you see?
There was a creepy situation. I remember. I must have been about 5 or 6. I was like first grade, so more like 6 or 7, and there was. I don't know if it was awake or asleep. It was creepy as hell to even recall. I remember being in my bed and then like my feet would suddenly get uncovered, like the blanket would be uncovered. Yeah. And so I would cover up my feet. And then there would be a point where I would be getting up and I would see like a pair of hands. Yeah. And they looked like creepy old lady hands. Like they still had some some ratchet chipped up, you know, fingernail polish on it. And they just looked like creepy, like dead hands. Lifting the blanket up over for whatever reason from just like, and just the hands over the bed. So I don't know if that's kind of I don't think it's the same thing as a hag attack, but it's pretty
some kind
weird.
Of form. Yeah.
It's some kind of messed up thing. My younger brother used to see like monsters and things like that as well. I've, you know, I'll be honest, I've never really been gifted with a whole lot of sight. I can hear things. I can feel things. I know when a fight's about to start.
Yeah.
You
can feel the vibration shift and things like that.
Well, I can smell energy, which is really weird. It's not, you know, because people always say, oh, they want to say clairvoyance or, you know, you want to work on your ability to see and visualize and all that. And for me, it's like I can clairalience and clairaudience are my things, hearing things and smelling things. Yeah. I've always heard if there was a spirit or if there was like a psychic attack or something, I'm terming it now. I wouldn't have termed it this way before. I've heard knocking, wake me up in the middle of the night, knocking in my head. The knocking.
Dude, I got chills just now because I was going to talk about that.
The knocking in your head?
Last night.
Like crazy. I had somebody say Nico last night. I've had somebody knocking every once in a while. I've been doing a lot of cleansing and banishings. There's something giving a lot of power.
I'm going to release this video as soon as we get off of here. I did a song, and the invisible creatures of the 5 elements, and it's explaining and walking you through what elementals are, calling them by name, telling you their functions. It's a really good song. I'm excited to release it. It's a topical song. I worked on the video all day yesterday, like literally. So the lyrics is playing in my head, the visuals, looking up pictures of elementals, trying to find the right ones to go in. I spent like literally over 8 hours like working on this video. And then I try to go to bed. The lyrics are going through my mind. Elementals, speak gentle with elementals.
Yeah.
And all of these lyrics going through my head. And then as soon as I'm about to fall asleep last night, the knocking, I heard something fall on my back porch. I don't think it actually happened, but as soon as you're drifting into that state, I'll wake up. Let me go check the back porch. Somebody might be there, and then I check everything. Nothing's happening. I go lay back down, kind of weirded out. The lyrics are still in my head. I'm dozing off. Somebody beats on my window, and I'm laying in bed with my wife. My daughter's in the other room, but they don't hear it. It's like as I'm falling asleep, something's trying to get my attention to wake me up. And I probably should have addressed it. I don't know that it was a bad thing or a menacing spirit. It could have been something wanting me to engage or wanting me to meditate or whatever the case is. I don't know, but last night was a strange night after editing that song all day.
The knocking is neutral, honestly. Like it can be whatever. It's not a guarantee that it's good. It's not a guarantee that it's bad. Elementals do know when you're speaking of them. They don't read your thoughts, so they don't read your mind. They can read your feelings, but not your mind. Mm-hmm. So, if you're like thinking, even if you're thinking weird stuff, like they're not really able to like communicate it. They might feel like, oh, he looks uncomfortable. His energy is kind of woo. So if you wanted to if you're going to profit off their namesake, I'd probably just put a little offering out there. Don't say thank you. You know how that goes. But I would just put a little offering out there, leave them a shot, whatever you got to do, but I would just if you're going to profit off of them in that respect, that might be a thing. Just saying. They're actually really cool. They're good neighbors. I don't let them in my house. I don't invite them into my house, but I do make friends with them. I do allow myself to make friends with them. And, like I said, I just treat them like neighbors. And, they don't have to be evil. They can actually be great protectors, it's kind of like, and it's a bit more automatic. You can call on an angel to protect you, but there's a different vibe when you got like a little gnome and his hammer, and he is like, look, this is my house too. And he's going to go fuck up a spirit on your front lawn. Cause so it's like, get all the allies you can, get all the allies you can. So the thing is like, but yeah, the knocking that's been happening a lot. I had a dream about, I think I got something trying to get to me. I had a dream the other day about some dude with like, your brain is going to give you weird signs. Like, what's good, what's bad based on your own brain's symbolism. And there's something about a dude in a navy blue business suit. I don't know why it is, but I'm like, that's a demon. So in the dream, this old man in a blue business suit is like, follow me with a gun. And I was like, huh. But I lost him in a 7-Eleven. And I was like, okay. So something was trying to get to me, missed out, still looking. Yeah. In the Florida water,
Yeah, I know a lot of times in dreams when you see a gun, it's talking about words, like words and gossip and people slandering. I know. I've had some experience with prophetic dreams with guns involved. Futuristic guns too. And there you go, if something like looks like it's going to be in the future, if that's something that was to come later. All of these signs, man, learning how to interpret whether you want to call it God or the spirits or the Holy Spirit speaking to you in everyday life and in your dream and in those states. And I think that everything is symbolic and we can learn how to interpret our dreams and in the dreams of others. And it makes it a lot more interesting, right? People are having these dreams and being plagued with visions. A big part of me that wants to talk about this stuff in the open or talk about the elementals or whatever the case is because there's people who are having encounters. They're hearing voices. They're laying in bed hearing people call their name. Yes. There's biblical encounters where that happened. Prophets laying in the bed.
Yes.
Samuel, wake up. Samuel, I have something to show you. What? what is this?
Yeah.
And turning over, like, what the hell is calling my name at 2
Yeah.
in the morning? And so that stuff intrigues me, especially when I have some type of frame of reference from even a Christian standpoint. So if it happens today, it's not so far off. It was happening to them, So it really, and all of this stuff that we're talking about, astrology, which I definitely want to go back to that before we move a little bit too much further.
Yeah, we can circle back. Yeah.
So astrology, which is in the Bible, when it's coming from a Christian perspective, most people think it's negative because there's a rebuke in the Old Testament towards the astrologers, but there's a rebuke to every facet of people, every stargazer, worshipers, seekers, priests, teachers, like children. Like God in the Old Testament rebuked everybody for like their heart wasn't in it no more. They were kind of profiting off of the practice, and it wasn't a spiritual discipline for them anymore. And so he would rebuke them and say, "You're doing it, but your heart's not in it, and therefore I don't want it. I'm not going to receive it." So that was the only thing that kind of happened. It wasn't like there was going to be an end to astrology. Astrology is all throughout the scriptures of the oldest books in the Bible. It talks about Orion, the Pleiades, the dog star, the great bear in the sky, and it gives.
It's a huge part of the Apocrypha as well.
The zodiac, all of this is in the Bible in a good way. Yeah. So when we're talking about astrology, like basic 101 stuff, like how does it influence us? Like what is it like? How does it influence us, and why should we want to know what's going on with the spheres above us and the stars and everything moving around?
It's okay. We go back to this talk about, energy, and everything is sort of made up of a certain type of vibration, right? Everything is made up of almost like a code, or it's a recipe. All right. So everything's a recipe. You're a recipe. I'm a recipe. This microphone's a recipe. The phone's a recipe. And what it does is basically, when you talk about a recipe, well, a recipe can be subject to change, or it changes a certain thing because, if you put too much, baking soda in one thing, it's going to mess it up. Whereas another one's going to need a whole lot more. Right.
Yeah.
So we already go through that in our lives. When we have all of those things around us changing vibrations all the time. Color changes vibration. We know candles do, incense, herbs, crystals. Well, if you think of the planets as, say, like giant crystals, that might be an easier way to look at it. Now, these are humongous, bigger than Earth for the majority, giant energy beam, energy systems out there just emitting this energy constantly. How those things mix make different recipes. Is the vinegar planet, right? So let's put it this way. Let's put it in food. I always go to cooking. So, all right. Say there's like a vinegar planet. All right, the balsamic vinegar planet. And then there's the olive oil planet. Those together are going to make a really, that's going to be good. We like dipping our bread in that. We know they make good salad dressing, all of that kind of stuff, right? So that's actually a good harmonious connection. And that's going to create a good harmonious connection or a good harmonious mix of energy going into a certain part of your life. It could be your love life. It could be your health. It could be travel. Now, there could be a baking soda planet. Okay, vinegar and baking soda, that's going to just make a damn mess. So if that's going on, that's going to happen elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so what's going to happen is that if we look at these things as recipes and archetypes of certain things, we can see how everything is a balance of these elements and all of these vibrations as well. So, there is there's the energy that is of Venus. Okay. So that's always akin to it's magnetism, it's attraction. Yes, we always call it love, but it's also favor, popularity, and to some degree it can rule money. So you think about how Venus would interact in a certain area of your chart. Well, if Venus brings that energy to your 5th house of love, well, you're going to be noticing you're magnetizing more romance into your life. If it goes into your 10th house of career, you're going to be becoming more popular, right? You're going to be becoming more popular at the job. You're going to be more popular with your boss. You're going to be noticing you're making more money. So all of these things in combination, this is what I was kind of prepping for, because I was like, well, maybe we should put it into sort of a Christian sort of, get down, into more of a Christian sort of a comparison. Do not go up there. Oh my God.
For those of you guys who are listening to the podcast, and his cat just climbed up the back of his chair and was about to probably crawl to the roof or something.
I was going to try and jump on a very thin bookshelf and knock over everything. And I got crystals and statues and mirrors and stuff. So I was just kind of like, he never does that. So, okay. So let's put it back in terms of Christian mysticism when we think about that. To me, now astrology is not the why, but it's the how of things in the universe. I hate it when people ask me, why is this thing happening? Why did this job not work out? What is the meaning? What is the spiritual meaning? And I said, shit happens. You know, there may be a higher message, but it's not coming from a planet. It could be coming from spirit. It could be coming from your guide. It could be coming from your higher self or a god, you know, but it's not going to come from a planet. That planet is, you know, well, it's not but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these things are just, they're out there. They're indifferent. You know, they're just doing what they do. It's kind of like, all right, a light turns on. So the way I would look at it is like, all right, if it's the how, then the planetary energies are an example of how a vibration is created to create, you know, to become dense and come forth into being in our reality. So you could say it could be how creation, you know, it could be what contributes to creation, but contributes to behavior. You are an amalgam. In astrological philosophy, you are an amalgam of the weather and a lot of other things, but you are highly influenced of the weather of the time of your birth. So you came into the world with Mars here and Mercury here. And so that weather already kind of shaped, or, you know, it kind of created, I guess you could say, a form.
An energy field?
Yeah, an energy field that your soul pushed through and picked up. So if Mercury was in a place that says, okay, we're going to make Derek a pretty, you know, we're going to make him a really outspoken dude, and we're going to make him, you know, a poet. We're going to make him able to, you know, to speak eloquently. We're going to give him these abilities to write songs and music. Okay. So that's, you know, if that was what was chosen by your soul waited for the time when the weather was right to do it, or God waited for the time when the weather was right to do it. Again, however it translates to you. So it's kind of like, okay, well, if we're going to, you know, it's like you go into cooking, right? You're going to have to wait for the oven to be a certain degree before you can successfully cook. Nobody cooks anything at 100 degrees. It's not going to cook at all, you know? So that's just kind of a nutshell how I describe it, if that makes sense. And you can use that energy as well.
Yeah, you use it, and you know, I guess it's like what we would say vibrational energy, but I guess that's definitely more new agey or spiritual. I guess it may be more of like a magnetic field of the body.
Magnetic field. I just call it magic.
Magic.
Yeah.
easy way to put it. But I've got a friend of mine who he's supposed to go see a psychiatrist, and he does from time to time, but he studies his astrological chart and knows what, like, just like a weather forecast. The one person put it last week, you know, just like you turn on the news and see what the weather's going to be, so you know if you need to wear a raincoat or if you need to wear a short sleeve shirt or whatever. My friend would watch he would read his chart and see what the energy is going to be, and he'll know whether he should start a new relationship, if he should look for a new job, if he should continue to do this, or if he should stay away from people for a couple of days, or whatever the case is. And he plays off of that, and he swears to a T that it works, and it helps him, and it's his therapy, and it works to a T for him, of reading his energy of what it's going to be for that period of time.
And I would do it too. You know, I do it. That's my job, you know, because I mean, for me, it's like, there are certain things. There was somebody I was talking to somebody about this earlier. I don't know if it was today or yesterday during an appointment or a video file. I can't remember that far because I do so many. I was basically saying, I'm like, everything has their peaks. You know, whether you're talking about, looking for a new job or moving into a new house or whatever, everything, you know, it's going to come a few times a year, but it changes for everyone every time of year because the planets are never in the same spot, right? Exactly, like consistently. And we were talking about a relationship, and I think what I was saying to them was, you know, okay, look, this is when you're most likely going to, you know, get involved in an exclusive monogamous relationship. It looks like I'm being shown the culmination of this effort. Now, you could meet somebody beforehand, but my advice to you is to remember that if it's this far out, right, you could, if you're going to go out and meet somebody, you know, before this window period happens, you may have to wait for that energy to build between the two of y'all, you know, so don't be surprised if that happens. Now, I do believe we all have free will, but there's only so much free, you know, I mean, our free will, it means we also have the free will to make smart choices and bad choices. All right. If you know, if your free will is, you know, don't carbon, you know, don't turn on the car in a closed garage. You have the free will to do that.
Yeah,
you do, but you probably shouldn't. Right. So when I think of like astrology or I think of magic, I think of the energy weather. I'm not going to go and fight a planet on this thing. I don't think I should. I could, if I need to protect myself, create some higher energies to sort of like, okay, there's something crappy going on in the sky the next 3 days. Let's just hold it down. You know, that's no different than getting an umbrella. That's cool. But I'm not going to say an umbrella is going to protect me in a hurricane. So, you know, it's time to get on my bike.
Yeah. So there's some things that you could do that's practical, where you don't just have to play the victim and blame the planets. Well, you know, Mercury's in retrograde. Everything's going to hell for this week or whatever the case is. You know, I've noticed some stuff happening during that kind of made me give some credence to that stuff when I didn't really study it, and I've noticed like relationships kind of messing up if don't engage with people who are lashing out because it's not going to end well. Those type of things, you know. But there are some practical things you can do where you don't have to be the victim to this stuff, right? You can use it for your good. So what's some things that you can do where you're not playing the victim to just blaming, oh, well, you know, this and that and this and that. Because there's people who do it, you know.
Well, you know, it also, you got to pay attention to where it falls in your chart. You know, I always say this to people when it comes to Mercury retrograde. I've got a video on my Scarlet Moon page, How to Survive a Mercury Retrograde. One of the big things, and a lot of astrologers don't talk about this way, it's very irresponsible because, you know, they go up and they hype it out and they want to be these big motivational speakers and life coaches. And I'm just kind of like, I am the witch in the woods. F that. You like my cat? You know, like that's how I am. But the Mercury retrograde doesn't just crash the chart for 3 weeks. Like that's not what happens. You know, it depends on where it is in your chart, what it's doing to planets in your chart, if it's doing anything at all. It could be in a perfectly benign spot. And there are some areas of Mercury retrograde where it's actually really good. You know, so the first thing you got to look into is, first, I need to know what my chart really looks like. Okay, your sun sign, that's not good enough. You need to know either when you were, you know, what time of day you were born. Okay. You need to know what time of day you were born, or, you know, get it reconciled somehow. Do your research. You know, do your research. Look at your birth certificate, call somebody, because your ascendant, you know, that's going to be the start of your whole chart, right? The start of how your personal houses work. So say you have, now Mercury retrograde, everyone's like, oh, communications are going to go badly. Don't drive anywhere. Hunker down and pray for daylight. No, if Mercury retrograde, there's something in a good spot. Mercury retrograde in the 8th house, that's a damn good spot. Everyone who ever owed you money is going to start giving it back. You know, it's time to collect. If you've got Mercury retrograde in the 11th house, like one of your boys from elementary school is going to come be your best friend again. You know, and if you have a chance to make that relationship work again, that's cool. Mercury retrograde in the 5th house of love. Okay, yeah, don't be official with anybody, but if there is somebody, there's an old crush or someone you want to try something again with, you can. You know, just don't try and stampede towards the finish line. You know, that's it. Just use common sense. I mean, if somebody came back and if I had an ex come back into my life for 3 weeks, why would I stampede towards trying to get official and doing something serious like that with them? You know, that's not even common sense. But, you know, so just don't lose yourself in it. With astrology, you know, just again, pick your battles. You know, pick your battles. If it says Mars retrograde, okay, Mars retrograde favors the defender, not the attacker. Where's Mars retrograde in your chart? Okay, say Mars retrograde's at work in the 2nd house of earned income. All right, it's in your work sector. So Mars retrograde's the defender. Wait till your enemy comes at you then. Wait out your enemy. You got to play defense for a little bit because you're basically going to win with that. Defense is not a good offense with Mars retrograde. Okay, Venus retrograde. People get trust issues with Venus retrograde. People get real insecure. People have their jealousy issues crop up. Where is it happening? Are people getting insecure and jealous in your family? In the 4th house? Okay, I'm going to take this with a grain of salt here. All right, I'm going to realize Venus retrograde's bringing all of this out. We're probably not going to be able to fix it during Venus retrograde, but I'm going to make a note of it. So we're going to talk about this again later. Throw that conversation in the trash. He didn't mean it. She didn't mean it, whatever. Right. But, you know, oh, hold on a second. I noticed something in the chat that just kind of threw my, is a chart a confidence booster or empowerment? I don't think it's meant to be a confidence booster. I think it's totally indifferent. I think it can be a confidence booster when you learn how to use it to your strength and know where your strengths are and where your power is. Then you are empowered. If you know knowing how to use anything makes you empowered. If you know how to use your computer better, you are empowered. You know, if you don't know how to use something, you're not very empowered. You know, I don't know how to use a lot of things. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, no, going into, but I mean, you know, it's just about, and you got to get familiar. If Uranus is the planet of disruption and randomness and chaos and crazy coincidences and things, that could be really cool or really bad. One of the things I got to tell people is, and maybe, again, maybe you'll agree with this, cut and dry, good and bad, splitting into either 100% good or 100% bad, that is a crippling mentality to come at your spiritual practice with. And people want that so bad. People want that so bad. Everything is either 100%.
It's a safety net.
It's a safety net. It's like, how do I get context into my reality? I'm going to make it as simple as possible. Kindergarten shape, circle, triangle, square. You know, don't do that. You've got to be able to appreciate the nuance. A lot of people say Saturn's bad. I like Saturn. Mm-hmm. Saturn's cool with me because I know how Saturn works. Saturn is just like the way I would describe Saturn is like a mean professor who doesn't care about your Instagram page or your date tonight. So you can be friends with Saturn. You learn to be friends with Saturn. You guys are cool. You're good to go. But he's a hard ass, you know?
That's good. That's good, man. One more final thing I think would just be good to end it on, man. So you're talking about how to kind of protect yourself and not just be a victim when it comes to astrology. But what about when it is with communicating with spirits? And I'm talking about whether you initiate contact or it just happens spontaneously, because I think we all entertain spirits unaware. What are some things that we can do to protect ourselves, whether it's psychic attacks or we open up doors to kind of get in over our heads? What are some things that we can do to make sure that, you know, because a lot of people approach even meditation with a fear that, okay, I'm getting into some things that I can't really see all the time. They're influencing me. I can open up portals in my mind where they're speaking to me through the day, or demons, or there's a lot of fear that comes along with that. What are some things that you do to protect yourself and other people can try as well?
Well, I mean, it does depend on an occasion basis. So let's talk about astrology really quick, because astrology is kind of the same as like a lot of other stuff. Astrology, that's real simple. Again, we're going to talk about it like weather. Okay, it's just a feeling in the air. That's really all it is. Now, sometimes that feeling's there for a week, sometimes it's there for a month, sometimes it's for 2.5 years, but it's never always doing the same thing. So for astrology, you know, those of you guys who are into crystals, those of you guys who do know how to ground and center, I mean, it's cleansing and keeping yourself protected and hunkered down during an astrology situation is the easiest thing to do. You don't have to be upset about Saturn returns. You don't have to worry about Pluto doing this to your Mercury and all of this kind of stuff. You know, and here's the thing, one of the best things that you can do during astrology is just keep a cleansed space. Keep the space clean, all right? Astrology, like weather, will kick up what's there. It will take advantage of the cracks, the dirt, and the crap that's already there. So don't have it. The less you have, the less damage it will really do. Okay. And you can do that in a lot of different ways. You know, again, you can cleanse and purify. You can bless your space. You can use your crystal grids. If you want to use herbs, you know, one of the best kinds of herbs to use is any kind of herb that's going to just calm the energy down. I like valerian root for that. I like lavender for that. Rosemary is a universal substitute. You can use that for almost everything, white magic. You know, so it's even a combination of just those three in general. You know, keep those in a pouch on your person just to keep the energy calm and relaxed and chilled. Keep it at your office. You know, if you feel like something's coming or you saw something, you know, either in a general horoscope, like, oh crap. I mean, remember when everyone was talking about Uranus square Pluto for ad nauseum, 6 years. That, I mean, something like that comes up again. If you're concerned about that, anything to calm things down. Essential oils are good if you are using them magically. I don't want to get into the topic. I mean, I'm going to piss some people off if I talk about medicinal essential oils right now. So I'm talking about it only from a magical sense. So, any kind of blend, again, things that calm stuff down. Because what it's going to do is it's going to slow down that energy. It's going to do like a windbreak. Okay, it's going to windbreak that energy. So it's not hitting you like a punch in the face. It's going to feel more like a breeze. So you want to slow that down, right? Or at least ground it. If you can't slow it down, ground it. Get some juniper, get some patchouli, get some real heavy grounding types of herbs and oils in there. That will also work out very nicely because it's going to be affected by that. Think of it as a wave. Again, it's going to kick up everything that's already there. Now, it's just like if you were out on a boat, right? Like you were on a fishing boat and you were going to be there overnight and you found out there was going to be a storm. Well, if you leave all your crap on the deck, you're going to lose it. If you leave everything out, if you're hanging out there, if you know there's a storm coming and you and your girlfriend sleep out there overnight like idiots, yeah, you're probably going to get thrown overboard. You just got to take the precautions, take your time, and just, do all of that. And honestly, when it comes to, getting that, just keeping that calm and clear, it's not going to hit you the way it's going to hit the next guy. Spirits are different. I didn't mean to talk so fast. The only reason I did, because I was like, we're going to talk more about spirits and I don't know how much time y'all have. So spirits, I got to try not to get too technical because I know we're kind of just doing this as a chat.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just put up that video recently about dealing with a guy who I wouldn't call him possessed, but he was practically, he was almost at possessed.
Oppressed, definitely.
Oppressed, yes. He was sharing his spiritual space with another entity. And the interesting thing about that is that I kind of get the suspicion that he was okay with it. Like he was kind of seduced by it. Yeah. Because that's what some spirits will do. They'll come in and they'll kind of seduce you into letting them occupy that space. And, he'll come to you and he'll say like, dude, I'll be here. I'll be like your big brother. I'll be your guardian angel. Just let me stay, or whatever is going on. Right. So you'll get seduced. You get tempted into that. And so in that situation, the best way to protect yourself is to not be afraid to, again, sort of, fight back a little bit. Now, I'm not talking about fighting your friend, again, when you're dealing with somebody who is, possessed or oppressed, your enemy isn't them. Your enemy is the creature who's taken them, right? Or is trying to take over them. And even if they're letting them, right? Because some people are just so depressed. I mean, spirits will take advantage of trauma, health crises, layoffs, divorce, whatever, right? So, one of the things you got to deal with those, you got to be prepared. Like you're not going to be able to be as close to that person as you were, Now, luckily I was in a situation where I could just kind of get in, get out and not have to deal with the aftermath. Right. But you can't really let yourself try and open up. You can't do that. Hold on. Let me hold space for you and give you love and light and all of that. You can't do that alone. You can't do that alone because you're just basically creating a breeding ground for more of that negativity. You've got to learn how to quarantine. Okay. One of the hardest things to do is to get a spirit to go once it's taken root, whether it's oppressing, haunting, possessing, however you want to phrase it. One of the hardest things to do is to get it to go and to banish it and get it out of the way. You may clear it and it can come back. You need to learn to quarantine almost like an infestation. If you create an environment that is inhospitable to it, it will eventually go. And then you can kick it out as many times as you want.
People call it starving it sometimes. Like if there's something that you're doing that is almost, in the Christian world, they say giving it legal ground to be there. You have to cut it off and kind of serve it notice and starve it out. If you're doing something, we're talking about gossiping. I mean, there's so many different things that will give this type of spiritual influence legal ground to be there. You're a perfect host. You know what I'm saying? So starving it out is a big thing.
The big thing is, and certain entities will try to evoke emotions, as you know, to get energy from that emotion. Some of them will take advantage of addicts.
Yeah,
You know,
big time.
they love drunks.
Yeah.
You know, they love drunks. They will take advantage of couples. They like sex. You know, they try and take advantage of all of these things. And
Possessiveness,
jealousy, trolling, even trolling, rejection, attacks. This person's presence actually, I don't know if we were switching roles or whatever, but I could tell this person was switching between the spirit and the not, you know, and the person. It was very, very strange because they were definitely somehow, this person was totally ignorant of what I was doing there. I mean, the dude basically just thought I was there to cleanse the house, you know, and he was like, oh, it's my girlfriend's creepy thing, whatever. I mean, he's spiritual, but he's not like that.
I've seen that. Yeah. You're like, well, we can do a clearing on the house, man, but you gotta
well, that was
doing this other stuff, bro.
Clearing on the house, and you know, I was just like, but it was interesting. Like he seemed to be the most averse to the most holy and blessed and purified of things. It didn't matter what it was. It could be holy water. It could be Florida water. It could be blessed salt. It could be, you know, blessed soil. It could be anything along those lines. It just, the dude just knew. Well, it wasn't the dude, but you know, that entity just knew not to go anywhere near it, which is very, very strange. So we had to set up a quarantine. Okay. Now that didn't mean we locked the guy up. We didn't do anything to him. It's not like I sat over there and, you know, screamed psalms at him and sprayed him with holy water. And I didn't, you know, get into my crazy witch gear and, you know, light a bonfire or do any of that either. But what was basically happening is we set a quarantine. It was basically like, all right, look, we're going to consecrate this house and bless this house and purify it to the space, to such a state that you know, it'd be almost like a bacteria dying on a dry surface.
Make
if this entity
uninhabitable.
This is uninhabitable to you. You can get the hell out. And the thing is that even though the entity is not haunting the house, it's, you know, it's oppressing the person, you know, and the girlfriend and the roommate and everything.
Because the person is the house, essentially, right? Well,
they are and they're not. There's a good rule of thumb here. And I told her this as well, you know, well, blood magic is the most powerful magic. And blood, when you say the person is the house, very important. Blood is a powerful influence when it comes to revoking, I guess you could say, sometimes legality over things if a person will not give it up themselves in this situation. So I said, okay, you need to find a blood relative of yours or his. If they are open to this, will have the power to revoke legality. Oh, no, I didn't say legality. I'm just, you know, auto-translating now. But blood magic will break that bond. So I'm like, do you got anybody, mother, father, brother, cousin, whatever, you know, get somebody in here, you know, because this is your place too, but you need to outvote this person. And the outvoting with power of blood is going to be what kicks this thing out, especially since it's like, okay, you're eclectic and she's kind of new. She wasn't really strong in her faith. He did not seem all that strong in his faith. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of power kind of circulating there. So I'm like, look, I'm going to hold this up and this is going to be here for like a month. So you got a month to, you know, finish the job, you know, you've got a month to put the finishing touches on. Now, your boyfriend's probably not going to want to come home a lot. Okay. Or he's not going to want to spend a lot of time in the house. You're probably going to want to eat out a lot of time. You're probably going to be, you know, and it's not really a boyfriend. You got to remember that, but he's going to be kind of avoidant. If you start to feel drained, if your girlfriend starts to feel drained, whatever, just go into another room and shut the door. It's just, that door is going to be your knife, you know, for the next month. So how do we alienate the entity? You know, how do we alienate it? That's basically what we're trying to do there. Mm-hmm. So now I protected myself with, you know, I mean, I go in loaded. The reason I put on the head wrap is because entities will influence you and what you're thinking to try and trick you and deceive you into thinking you're doing something you're not. So I've had entities deceive me in almost like weird, like, is this my intuition? Is it not? Kind of thing. Where I was doing a spell, I was doing cleansing and healing. It just doesn't matter what. I've had entities deceive, you know, in all kinds of ways. Like, you're gonna kill him. Like, haven't that come in, or, you know, you're going to get cancer or something crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah, I had that. Yeah.
And so your brain thinks, if you're not careful, if you're not strong in that moment, your brain thinks, oh my God, I'm putting this energy into this.
Or I already have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I already have it. Am I manifesting it by doing this right now? Is the spirit, or is God, or is the energy I'm putting into this a resonance for that? No, ignore that whisper. Ignore that deception. Most of the time, those things will come from things that are already inhabiting people. Okay, when they're in a person or in a or in a crowd. Remember, entities can oppress entire crowds. It doesn't have to be just one person. You don't have to deal with it. So this dude could have had his whole football team. Yeah. Just all. It's just kind of bouncing around. And
powers and principalities is what it's called in the scriptures, and it talks about them being over nations and cities and things like that. These certain entities, like strong, powerful gods, essentially being over certain people groups and religious sects and orders and everything, man, of large groups of people. And then the little warring minions or demons or evil spirits, unclean spirits, whatever, going down and messing with the people that are within it as well.
And I think that what's happening is like a lot of that's kind of coming up now. You can call it revelations, you can call it tribulation, whatever you want to call it. I just say, like, because a lot of people want to go, is that what's going on? I'm like, all of you people woke up one day and said you wanted this shift. You wanted the shift. Here is your shift. Welcome to my world. You didn't think the aliens were just going to come down here and beam you out of your bed and let you live in paradise for eternity, did you? Like, this is your shift. Now, here's my thing, and I feel like you're with me here on this. If you are a practitioner of your faith, not just of your faith, but a practitioner of your faith, this shift means nothing. You were already doing it before 2012, 2011, 2010. Go back a decade and a half more, however old you are. It's kind of like, no, all of you are just catching up to my reality. Or I guess you could say, not my reality, but you know what I'm saying, like one's reality, a practitioner's reality. Everyone is now catching up to a practitioner's reality. And I think that if you're going to protect yourself, again, you need to know how to quarantine. The first thing y'all need to do is learn how to bless and consecrate any kind of space. I don't care to who. That's not my job. We're not going to, if you're going to learn to do it to an angel, if you're going to do it with, with God, with Jesus, any kind of pagan deity, heathen deity, just make sure they're cool and they resonate with you. I do believe we have some that are parts of our ancestral line we have easier access to. My mother's Scottish, so a lot of Gaelic and Celtic deities, really sink in real well with me. Goddess Bridget, Saint Bridget sinks in real well with me. There are certain things that I think that you can find that you relate to, and you got to be able to just kind of you have to be okay with. And I like the term, and I think I actually got this from a friend who was. Who does a Christian mysticism. I like the term, you've got to be solid in your sovereignty. That's your most powerful thing. Yes, you can wear crystals, hematite, black tourmaline, onyx, jet. Jet's fabulous, by the way. Of the four, I like jet number one, and then I like the rest all pretty equal. They're all pretty good in their own way, for their own fashion. You can wear crystals all you want, but really, the more specific an energy signature is, the more powerful it is for your protection. So what's better? Okay, a stone by itself is going to do, it's all good. It's going to do enough. It's going to do something, right? Remember, stones are great for astrology situations and bad weather and just weird, freaky energy in the cosmos. Stones are great for that. That's what stones are for. But, what's better than that is going to be a sigil or a pouch or a bag or, something that is consecrated with a very specific energy resonance. And what is that very specific energy? Is it runes? Is it the Archangel Michael? Is it a deity? Is it a sigil you made yourself? It's going to be something, because entities they're not while they may be omnilingual in terms of what we believe a language is, they're not omniscient when it comes to vibration. They don't know everything. And I've found, being more cross-cultural, that certain practices are better for defeating other practices. Goetia. I'm sure you're familiar with Goetia.
Yeah.
Nothing kicks the shit out of a Goetia demon like Shinto exorcisms from Japan. I'm like, hey, y'all never been to Japan. It's just like, it's like they had no immunity. And that might be something to think about, And again, you're going to have and you can do that within your own religions too. You can do that within your own faith too. How they do, Christianity in America is not how they do Christianity in Guam. It's not how they do Christianity
in Israel.
in Israel. Yeah. So you can go and look, right?
Yep.
So you got to be ready for that. But I think the more specific energy signature, we got to get out of the general, because again, it's like stones are great. Stones are fabulous, but they're only going to do so much. Herbs by themselves are great. They're so, but you need to also understand that if you're going to have your sovereign space, we share this space with other spirits, and you probably have spirits on you right now. I got spirits on me, and all these people probably do. Some of them are totally cool. Some of them are kind of, how we have like intestinal flora in our gut to help us digest. Yeah. We've got mites, believe it or not. You've got mites in your eyelashes that help protect you, from infections and things like that. Yeah. Most of the time,
they're all not bad. Or even if they're bad, you would call bad. They're sent for a good reason.
Yeah,
that's pretty deep.
Yeah, and a lot of spirits will say, if you just don't want them, you want to exercise or purge to be clean. That's cool, but sometimes you don't need to worry about it too much. It's when they're starting to oppress. A lot of them will have love for the host and obey the sovereign host, right? And you never know. Maybe you're their ticket to salvation. That's why they're latched onto you. They're like, hey, his vibe is bright. Yeah, I'll keep him. I'll do my best to keep him from getting sick. And we love this, and we're on the same page. So I'm gonna hitch a ride on you. Derek, I'm gonna hitch a ride on him. And if this dude's cool, then I'll try and be a cool dude. And I'll try and protect him or give him a warning or whatever. Sometimes that's what happens. But protecting yourself, you got to know how to, I think step number one is, again, consecrating that space, making a sovereign space, making a quarantine space, something that is at least, the most inhospitable to a hostile entity as possible, and things that, it's from there on, for the most part, if you can do that, you can overcome anything, because you can make that inhospitable to curses and hexes. Yeah. You can make it inhospitable to ill wishes. You can make it inhospitable to, the vibrations of, of depending on the situation, certain astrology energies. And so that's what you need to start doing. We just, and you could do it by making holy water. You can do it by practicing that. I mean, that's a good practice. That's one of the things I always tell people, like, no, you need to learn how to exercise salt and make some damn holy water. Like, that's the first thing anyone needs to do. I don't care what your practice is. You need to learn how to charge things. You need to learn how to hold that space and know that it is your sovereign space. And even if you share the house, it's like, okay, you've got, you don't want to completely dominate it because your wife or your girlfriend is kind of like, she's just kind of agnostic. She's on the fence. I'm not saying like be a dictator. You're just basically saying, just like you would say, hey, the only thing that you're dictating to your partner or to your roommate or your kids or your parents or whoever's living with you, the only thing you're dictating is common sense. All right. When you're dictating to the house, don't allow demons inside. That's like saying, look, don't let a bunch of crackheads in. Okay. Is that oppression to your relative? Is that oppression to your girlfriend to be like, no, I don't want you bringing up any crackhead, just a whole bunch of crackheads sit off the street to sleep, to sleep in the living room. No.
You might not have a living room when you wake up.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't need to, that's not oppression, so you got to be comfortable with taking that.
You're right. It's like inviting them in, man. It really relates a lot to microscopic organisms, microscopic bacteria, in the way that functions, in the way that you can't see them without a special lens or a trained eye. And in the spiritual sense would be like the third eye, being able to see into the spirit realm or be able to sense them on or around people, they work the same type of way, in the same way of there's medicines, there's things, there's healthy food that you can put within your body that will make your body inhabitable for certain bacteria and certain things that will make you sick, and strengthens your immune system. Spiritually, you can strengthen your immune system. The weird thing, though, is, and we've talked about this in a lot of episodes, is that like the ancients kind of equated them to be one and the same. Like they thought that these microscopic beasts and these little monsters and these things that you can only see with a special magnifying glass, that was the spiritual warfare. Those were the spirits from the outer realms trying to influence us and make us sick and give us diseases and things like that, and so the lines kind of really get blurry there. There's old banishments for like stomach worms and casting the worms out of your body, and the dragons of Revelation. Like they believe like that's what these things were, the dragons and the beast and the demons and stuff that we fought with. It's really interesting.
And I mean, is it really that much different now, though? Because all prayer, all energy work, all magic, all of that active spiritual practice, what it's doing is you're changing reality. And in a sense, it all comes down to changing chance and controlling reality. Not in a crazy megalomaniac way. Yes, some people will go there. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter what religion they are. We've seen it happen. Whether they want to be the biggest awesome sorcerer in the world, which doesn't exist, or they want to open a mega church, or they want to do this pyramid scheme in Hawaii and they want you to come and pay $8,000 for a retreat there, and they're just not going to do anything. We've seen it all. But control of your space, and you deserve control of your body. You deserve control of your physical body. You deserve control of your physical space. You do not deserve to be a codependent enabler to a spiritual entity that is taken over, your friend or your dad or your girlfriend or your brother or whatever. And I think that when you learn to stand strong in your sovereign space, again, you are changing probability. You are controlling reality, because all of a sudden you're deciding what manifests. And even if it's not deciding what manifests, like even if you can't make something manifest because of it, it can't manifest because of you, and you're at a stalemate. And at some point you are going to push back enough to kick its ass out, And I mean, heck, I even did a thing the other day where, if you want to invoke spiritual help, go with help you trust. A lot of people ask me, Nico, why do you're a witch? Why do you work with Archangel Michael? And I'm like, well, anyone who says angels and magic don't go together doesn't know anything about ceremonial magic or voodoo or, or a hell of a lot of stuff, or conjure or anything like that, because angels go in that very well. Angels are like the servants of Source, whether you call Source God or I call Source God or whatever, that's up to you. But angels are the servants of Source. And so, I was basically like, Archangel Michael, I'm doing this work, get this thing out of this person's body. Please help me to get it out of their body. Take this entity into the light if it can be rehabilitated, purified, and healed. If not, then cast this ass into the void. That is how I go with it, And so it's an interesting kind of thing. You can call on that help, but a lot of these spirits will come and protect you. They'll put you in a bubble and shield you, but they won't do the work for you. Yeah. Okay. They won't always do the work for you. You've got to be able to, because they're there to help you. If it's a real bad situation, they'll do it. But so a lot of the times, even angels will be like, okay, you know what? I will walk you through. I will help you carry this load, but you are not going to throw this all on me.
That's good. We talk about that a lot. Like, what demons do we cast out, and what demons are sent here for us to learn from? Like, are here to teach us a lesson about ourselves, about life. And you can't, you have to learn from them. And so that's why, like, in every situation, you got to be looking for the lesson in everything, the good and the bad, and just look for the lesson and look for the test. And because, you're going to have to take the test again eventually. So you might as well find out what it is, pass it, ace it, and therefore you'll be able to move on to the next level. What's next in your ascension process, the process of moving from one level of consciousness to the next? You have to take these tests, no matter what type of character flaws that you have to learn from it. You have to move on to the next. And whether it's, we've been talking about it the whole show. I always have to be right. I have spiritual friends who are racist. They have to get over that. They have to let that go. You know what I'm saying? There's people who look down upon people who eat meat. Like, there's just all of these different contentions that this is the way, the only way. You know, so-called,
I mean, exactly. It's like so-called awakened homophobes or so-called spiritually all love and light. I mean, we go into like racist or classist. That person can't afford this. Mm-hmm. What did they do? What is their karma? Or why can't they? Or they're so low vibe. And it's like, hold on a second. Yeah. Now, it's one thing to have, a discussion about abundance and prosperity. It's another thing to go and blame somebody for their situation when they weren't set up the way you were. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't born to a rich family. Yeah. Maybe they decided they were better than being a gold digger. And so don't go calling richness. Don't call prosperity evidence of a person's goodness or vibration. Because I've met some real rich, evil incarnate, individuals. In my life.
It was really the other way around for me. Like, I've come from the lowly road, and I thought that being spiritual or having spirituals is a good example of looking at Jesus as being the poor righteous teacher, and you have to deny the beautiful things in life. You have to deny yourself, which is really coming from like a Gnostic standpoint, that you're not supposed to have anything good, and you're supposed to deny the delicacies of life and to
decadence. Watch out for decadence. I can't remember how it's phrased, but
but that's totally not the truth. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Like, you're just it's denying all the fun stuff and beautiful stuff in life. And
no, I don't mean it that way, because I mean, I grew up very poor, which is kind of funny, because it's like, when you think about it, I have a family that actually like did pretty well, and it was, won't go too far into it, but my dad wanted to kind of abstain from what he considered to be excess and materialism and things like that. But he also made some choices financially, for us that, we kind of learned to go, and not think about decadence so much. We kind of learned to be more minimalist in that way. And that was cool and all. But the problem was the idea of it being the only, you do develop a negative opinion and a positive opinion one way or the other. My older brother hated it and thought it was horrible, and everyone, we're all peasants and crap. And I was kind of neutral. And then my younger brother was kind of neutral as well. And so you kind of learn, okay, well, it's not more or less righteous to abstain or be an ascetic, right? It doesn't make you a better person, certainly not. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to people looking at people who have wealth and saying, because you have this, you are worthy of admiration, I take issue with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That when you mentioned earlier the prosperity movement. You know what I'm saying? The prosperity gospel in the churches and stuff. And that totally...
Not just the church. It's everywhere.
Exactly. Because it was crazy that you mentioned it with the same breath as mentioning The Secret. I come from the prosperity movement. Like, not that I was in it, but I come in a place of exposing it because all the other churches were into it. And, we saw the flaws in it. I knew the philosophy. I battled and debated these people when I was in religion or whatever the case is. Then I get out of it and I watched The Secret. And I'm watching, I'm like, wow, this is the prosperity gospel. Like, the prosperity gospel stole their stuff from The Secret, or vice versa. I'm not sure, which came first, but it's the exact same thing. And it's the focus is money. The focus is riches and always finances. And it was always nasty because you never had enough. Like, you never, like, once you get a good job, it's, what, this job ain't good enough. I want the next position up. I want, and you just keep going up the corporate ladder and this greed and wealth and stuff, and it was just insane that was what the focus was about it all.
Well, the funny thing is that a lot of people will say things like poverty consciousness or scarcity mentality
Yeah.
when we talk about, say, maybe taking a shot at, say, prosperity gospel, right? And they'll be like, well, you don't understand, that, that's part of your poverty mentality. Your poverty consciousness is making you resistant. And I kind of go, well, not really. To me, the gluttony, the never-ending hunger for more prosperity and wealth is probably the most poverty consciousness ever. It's like that to me, that's kind of like you're
never satisfied.
You're never satisfied. You're consuming so much because you don't know when it's going to go away. So you start hoarding. You eat everything, and it's like you're kind of stashing and stashing and stashing, and you're desperate, and it's the only thing on your mind.
Yeah.
That to me is scarcity mentality. That to me is poverty consciousness, because the way, when people look at it, it's kind of like you already have abundance. Abundance is everywhere. And abundance is too vague anyway. I mean, you could have an abundance of scorpions. Do you really want that? Like, don't send abundance as the only request to the universe. That's like mistake 101. But the thing is that there's I think that what happens is that you probably want to think about, okay, well, the universe wants to have this energy actually circulate. The universe will destroy and take away that which stagnates. That's its job. Well, that's the job of what we call curses and dark magic and things like that. That's made up of an energy signature. In a natural occurrence, as you say, learning a lesson, or in a natural occurrence, what it's doing is it's just breaking down things that are stagnant, that are not changing, that are not flowing, that are not evolving. Why would you want to accumulate stuff in your life that doesn't go anywhere? That when our relationships stagnate, they fall apart. Our jobs stagnate, they fall apart. Our health stagnates, it falls apart. Everything falls apart. So you don't want to, having an abundance of flow is good, but just having an abundance of crap is not. Does that make sense?
100%, man. Nico, Scarlet Moon, I've enjoyed this conversation with you. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. We finally made it happen. Thanks for coming on the show. Everybody wants to know how they can find you on YouTube, and if you want to give out your Facebook pages and all that good stuff. Go ahead and plug your sites where people can check out your work, man, because you're really good at what you do.
All right. Plug. Well, you know what? I think, hold on a sec. If y'all just want to look to the chat bar, I'll just start plugging links here into the chat bar while it's still live. It's going to be on the right side. So there's my Facebook. Oh, can't do it. Didn't work. Okay, please remove any web address. Okay, it's just Scarlet Moon. Honestly, just do Facebook Scarlet. Sorry about that, y'all.
Admin
if you do want to search up my Facebook, my YouTube pages, okay, Scarlet Moon YouTube. You can just type in the search page. You can do YouTube search Scarlet Moon Astrology, or type in Scarlet Moon Magic. Both channels will go up, and they refer to the other one. Remember, Scarlet Moon, that's just Scarlet Moon. The regular one is for astrology and tarot and horoscopes. And Scarlet Moon Magic is more of the woo-woo stuff, which is where we kind of ended up here in this the last half hour here, which is really cool because that's my favorite to talk about. And if you are interested in any more, you can check out my website, integrativemysticism.com. I do have a Patreon program going on myself. People get permanent discount codes for certain amounts that they pledge. I also got exclusive biweekly horoscopes on there, and there's no pledge minimum on there at all. I mean, you can just do $1 and still have access to those biweeklies. So, if you're interested in any of those, that's fantastic. Derek, I'm really actually happy that we finally got a chance to talk and, kind of feel each other out, because this is actually really, really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, my brother. Dude, thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Stay in touch.
All right. Shalom, my brother. Peace.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Nico, Scarlet Moon, ladies and gentlemen. We really have been trying to do this for a while. We've been throwing dates back and forth for a long time, trying to get our schedules to mesh, but I'm glad we finally had the chance to do it. Really cool individual. I've been watching his videos for a while on YouTube, and been a friend with him for some time on Facebook as well. I just like his spirit, man. I really do. I like everything about him, and I enjoy listening to him. He's really good at what he does, and he's got a pretty big audience too. He's got a lot of people who feel the same way. So check him out on YouTube as well. Want to say thank you again to all the patron supporters, everybody who enables me to do what I'm doing. Thank you guys so much. If you want to do that, head on over to patreon.com/truthseeker. There you can sign up at any level of giving. You get rewards. You get all my music and all the new stuff, all the new hits. You get it. There's a bunch of new music over there right now. You can check that stuff out. Also get access to the School of the Mystics every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central. We're in the course right now, which is entitled Basic Training for the Prophetic Ministry, learning to hear the voice of God speaking to you in your life and then speaking to others. And the first session that we did, like I said, again, it was really awesome, getting really good feedback. So join us for that. If you missed it, it's in the patron section as well. You can go back and listen and join us for session number 2. The teachings are pretty short, and then there's an activation. Then there's a something that we questions that we ponder as a group, and then we do the one-on-one stuff and practice prophesying and practice being able to pick up on the different energies that each other are walking in, and there's grace to do that, and it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. So make sure you guys do that. New album out entitled Seer that comes out 4/20, April the 20th. There's also going to be an album release concert on the same day in Mobile, Alabama. Some of you guys are talking about coming. So let's see. Also, we are doing, I got a new video out. If you guys haven't seen that, for the song Alpha. We're also releasing another video as soon as this podcast is over. So if you're listening to this on the podcasting end, it's already up. The new song we're putting out tonight is called The Invisible Creatures of the Five Elements, featuring Illuminati Congo, myself, and commentary by Manly P. Hall. It's going to be really good. And so, like I said, the story I told, earlier was concerning that song, let the chips fall where they may. Check it out. I'm really proud of my work. I worked on a visual. I'm not in the video, but it's a visual that I created and stuff. And I used to do that for all my videos back in the day. Whatever I was talking about would kind of weave in and out of the video. So I'm about to release that. Make sure you check it out. I'm trying to get all the material out for this new album so I can start sharing it with the public as well. Thank you guys for the support. I couldn't do it without you. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. You guys have a good night. Tomorrow we got another doubleheader back to back. Really good guests lined up tomorrow. So join me for that episode. I'm looking forward to it. Peace and shalom. We'll see y'all.
Your will so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the Truth Seeker podcast, head over to truthseeker.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/truthseeker.